Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans finalized multiple coaching staff changes Monday, making the hire of new special teams coordinator John Fossil official and bringing in former Houston and Tennessee Oiler Renee Stewart as his assistant. The team also promoted Luke Stocker as the tight ends coach and brought in Tony Oden to coach cornerbacks. Former special teams coordinator Colt Anderson, his assistant Anthony Levine, cornerbacks coach Chris Harris, and former tight ends coach Justin Alton will not be retained. Only one head coach opening remains in the NFL. It's with the New Orleans Saints. They completed an in-person interview with Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore yesterday. And Tennessee basketball returns home tonight, hosting Kentucky in a top 15 matchup. Both teams looking to bounce back from a loss over the weekend. Vol Network coverage starts at 5:30, tip-off at 6 right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. .45 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, with you until 3 o'clock with the hitman Blaine Bishop. I'm Lucas Panzica, in for Zach Lyons this week as he is down taking in the Senior Bowl action in Mobile. We've got players on the field. We're starting to see some names being dropped, drills happening. Mike Borgonzi, Brian Callahan meeting with Titans media under the bleachers down at the Senior Bowl. So we'll hear from Brian Callahan and Mike Borgonzi coming up in a little bit. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. A lot to get to today, but Blaine, if you could do me a favor. And name a country.
Portugal.
So imagine explaining the NFL to someone in Portugal.
Oh,
okay?
Portuguese? Oh.
It would take a long time.
Yeah.
But you explain the rules of football, the dynamics of the league, the history, the playoff format. Maybe you've got a PowerPoint set up with the two conferences, the divisions in each conference. And then when you get to the section about quarterbacks in the AFC, you explain Patrick Mahomes. And then you explain Josh Allen. And you explain Lamar Jackson. And you explain Joe Burrow. And I imagine after this very lengthy presentation to this person from Portugal, they would take a moment after digesting all of this information, especially that section about quarterbacks in the AFC, and their reaction would be, well, how is anyone else supposed to win? Do you think there's this hopeless feeling right now with fan bases, with teams around the AFC not called Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, Bills, and maybe even Ravens, Bengals, Bills, as the Chiefs continue doing what they're doing, and you kind of look up from the basement where a lot of teams are this year and think that's how far away you are, and that Patrick Mahomes is 28 years old? Because I couldn't help but feel this sinking, hopeless feeling with all the excitement of the offseason. And there's a lot. You have the number one overall pick. But still watching the AFC Championship on Sunday thinking, at the end of the day, you could do all of those things right, and that's still who you're going to run up against.
This is an absolute fabulous question, because I really don't know the answer, besides saying, as a competitor and as good and as great those other quarterbacks are with Mahomes, until you beat him, your competitive nature is going to itch you all season until you do. Until you do. I'm telling you right now, that's the only way, because that's what I would do. Because it would just eat at me and eat at me. And sometimes when you get in that game and once you meet up, you want it so bad, you actually don't play your best. You have to settle down. That's actually, if you watch Josh Allen, that's how he started the game. He almost threw 2 picks right off the bat.
Yeah, first drive.
He wants it so bad till you settle back down, the game gets started, you get into the groove. So a lot of things have to factor into that. I know we as fans sitting on this side now in the media and a fan is they actually – when do the quarterbacks actually play against each other? They actually really don't. But that's the matchup everybody's talking about, literally, and it's, you know, the matchups versus the other team's defense. So until one of those guys' defense falter, as we saw the fourth down stop against Josh Allen, whether you like the spot or not, they came up big in big moments. And that's the difference. Andy Reid, Mahomes, and the Chiefs, been there, done that. Every time they need to make a critical play in a critical moment, they make them. Here, guess what? The Bills could have done the same thing. Josh Allen was miraculous. That guy, Kincaid, got to catch the ball. Like, it was a tough catch. I give it to him, but he got to catch that. That's the plays that Kansas City makes. So, that's really it. It's going to eat at them until they do. It really is, because that's all the talk and fodder about those great elites. And by the way, I'm still going to stick with what I said. I don't know if I've ever said it with you. Of those four, I'm going with Joe Burrow. Of those four. And guess what? He has no championships or MVPs. And I just like his style and how he plays. And it all started back when he was at LSU and then transferring from Ohio State, and then how he played and he got better and he kept improving and you kept seeing it live in action. Because guess what? Somebody believed in. Once that became unbroken, he became unstoppable. And that's the mentality I wanted quarterback. And I don't want my guy running as much. I know Lamar is really dynamic, but at some point he's going to have to, you can beat people with your arm. You beat them with your arm. At the end of the day, now it's great, to have both, but I want my quarterback to maybe run for the first downs when needed, scramble a lot like Mahomes does too. But I think he's a lot sharper as a passer. When I say that, I'm not talking about arm strength or anything else. I think he goes to his progression read. He hits the open guy, and he knows where he's supposed to go every time. I think Mahomes plays a little loose for me, and guess what? That's great because he's matched up with who likes loosey-goosey, and that's Andy Reid. And guess what? If he played with past Titans history, they would have told Mahomes to stay in the pocket and quit running around. That's what they would have told him, and try to make him into a pocket passer. So I like Burrow of all those guys, and he has nothing but, man, he's got the air of confidence and the swag that I like. I want my quarterback to have, and just enough mobility to make it difficult for defenses.
I agree. Isn't it the weirdest thing that of those four teams that we just mentioned, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Bengals, I could argue that of all four of those fan bases, or we'll say of the three fan bases of teams that are chasing that Chiefs greatness at the top of the AFC, I could argue that it's the fan base of the team that didn't even make the playoffs this year that might feel the best about it, because we have the guy that has beaten him head-to-head in the playoffs. We've got the only quarterback in the NFL, currently in the NFL, in Joe Burrow, that has gone head-to-head with Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs and won. Where Josh Allen and the Bills have lost 4 times now. And
who's that quarterback?
What's that?
Who did that?
Joe Burrow.
Oh, we're right. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Joe Burrow.
Like the Bengals fan base.
I thought you said we did. I thought you meant the Titans.
Sorry. No.
I was like, what?
No.
Tannehill?
No, the Titans had their battles with the Chiefs. And I'll always think about the what if the Titans played the Chiefs in that AFC Championship, because that was a good matchup for the Titans that year. Really they smoked them at Nissan Stadium, but, ifs and buts, candy nuts, as Coach Mack says. But Bengals weren't even in the playoffs this year, and yet their fan base is the only one that can say, we know our guy can go head-to-head and win in that setting. He's the only one that's done it, not named Tom Brady.
Yeah. So they also have some weapons or two, on offense too. That doesn't hurt. They
got work to do on the defensive side.
Right. They had some injuries and everything else, so it hurt them earlier in the season. And Burrow probably would admit that he maybe made some mistakes, some fumbles that he had in the pocket early in the season. It could have prevented maybe, them winning some games, early in the games, but still, in totality, that's what great players do. So they say we can mask a lot, but hey, I needed a little more help on the defensive side in this year to get us in there. They went on a little run there at the end, but yeah, Joe Burrow, man, I love the way he plays. And I think that's what we're looking for, to tie it all back in for a guy like that. Guess what? The Titans, we're never going to find a guy like that. We're not going to get a guy like that. So I don't understand. Like we some of these guys, they're not going to come close to that. So what are the odds? You probably know better than me, of the first 2 picks that go quarterbacks. How many of them? What's the percentage you think of their success rates as quarterback? When I say that, I'm talking about became franchise quarterbacks. And we all know what Winston and Mariota turned into, right? Good, solid players, but
backup
they're just
quarterbacks.
Good quarterbacks now. They're backup cornerbacks, journeyman type players. So what's the odds that one will hit? And people think that's the only way you can get your franchise quarterback. I'm not sure if it is.
Well, that makes for an interesting question. How does that impact how you go about this draft? If you don't believe either one of these quarterbacks can take you to those heights, maybe they can bring you back to a stable, competitive place, and they can be a piece of the puzzle that gets you there, because the Titans obviously need a lot more than a quarterback. And maybe that's enough, and you cross that bridge when you come to it. But it's an interesting thought when building out a plan at the quarterback position. Do we not need to put the cart before the horse here? Instead of thinking about what quarterback can get us to those heights to even be competing with the Chiefs in the playoffs, but instead, what quarterback can just get us to the playoffs and then worry about taking that next step?
Well, I don't know. I mean, or do you hurt your quarterback by not having all the pieces to the puzzle ready for him? And in particular, you're talking about your offensive line and your weapons you're throwing to. So that'll be interesting. We'll see in free agency first. Where they go, where we go with the guard tackle situation there with some holes there, let alone Cushenberry will be coming back from Achilles. Not sure where his status will be when the season starts. So that's three guys right there, and you need some weapons with some guys' contracts up, and Boyd, and then see who steps up. NWI's contract is up, I think, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, you're going to have to bring in some weapons to make sure you help that quarterback along the way, unless you decide to go a different route.
Well, what we talk about with Joe Burrow, all of those things, the calm, cool, and collected poise that he shows, arguably better than anybody in the NFL. The neck up aspect that Mike Borgonzi has talked about, that Coach Mack talks about all the time. Mike Borgonzi and Brian Callahan have talked about exactly that, how to evaluate those intangibles in a quarterback prospect as they're down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. So we'll hear from the Titans GM and head coach. You can jump in 615-737-1045. We're also live on 1045 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And we'll get to that coming up next. Mike Borgonzi and Brian Callahan from the Senior Bowl. It's Cover 2 on 1045 The Zone.
Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? They staff all their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop, just so they can be ready for when your emergency pops up out of nowhere. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to get a right now appointment for your vehicle repair? Some dealers can be more than 2 weeks out just to get a freaking appointment, but not Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without the dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and a staff that fix your car right now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, then call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says we will never be too busy for your customers. We're here to take your pain away, and we mean right now. And Eurofix repairs all European cars. And Eurofix says yes to speedy repairs when others can't or won't. Family owned for 26 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myeurofix.com. That's myeurofix.com. But always done, Blaine, says you.
It's got to be one of the hardest things to evaluate, the neck up aspect. We're going to hammer that phrase throughout the course of the pre-draft process.
Heck up, man. I got an A++ on that.
Oh, Blaine Bishop, I'm sure, crushed the neck up portion of your draft evaluation.
Was the easy,
but you had to have it, right? I mean,
for me, when I feel like I was always going to be a little less as athletic or less as fast, that put me right on par. And so when you turn on the tape, you go, well, dang, he's faster than that guy. When in reality is I understood the game a lot better than they did and used a lot of cheat codes that I kept in my back pocket. For whatever position, and studied individual players, linemen as well, to make sure that I could make those plays. Yeah, that's really the key to success is really focus. For quarterbacks, to me, this is the thing to me that they have to be, and it's usually all the guys who are making calls. So I'm going to go center, quarterback, middle linebacker, and safety. And the reason why I say that is because you have to be able to change your thought process in a split timing based off of moving by defenses if you're a quarterback. Can you react at the same time and understand where you're supposed to go with the ball, even though you had your mindset going somewhere else before the snap of the ball? And can you get it done and get the ball there? And you have to know where everybody else is on the field. You have to know that. You should be able to, Levis should have been able to throw the swing pass blindly. That's how easy it was as an outlet. Every time he thought, I got to go here. Boom. It should have been that easy. And you should have your own clock in your head. I thought Levis didn't have a good feel for the pocket. He was learning that. Most quarterbacks already have that most of the time, especially the elite ones. Have a great feel for the pocket and pocket presence when they're in there. So, the quick thought thinking process, all you got to do is just look at Peyton Manning. That's it. That taught me a lesson in '99 how to approach my game because he showed me I was giving away things that I shouldn't be. And so in game, I saw him looking at my feet and I go, well, guess what? I'm going to change my feet alignment. I'm going to do the opposite what I've been doing because I kept seeing him look at my feet. And I'm like, dang, he must have studied something on film that I didn't even know I was doing.
So that was something you had to put 2 and 2 together.
Yes.
Watching the quarterback's eye line coming into contact with your feet in game.
And he kept doing it play after play. So by the second quarter, I go, well, I'm going to do the opposite.
Now, is this your first time going up against Peyton, or did it take a few games for you to recognize this?
No, it wasn't the first time, but this is the first time I recognized it. It was in a playoff game. So, so I did everything the opposite. So if I felt like I was leaning forward and moving forward to the line, then I would be going to middle post. And so if I was blitzing, I'd line up on the line and go run back to middle post. Instead of do what I normally do is just stand, 8 yards away and then turn out and open hips and read quarterback. It was in game and it kind of helped us out because he was checking plays to where we were rolling our coverage. So it was kind of interesting just how that all happened. And he was young in his career. I think he was in his third year. Mm-hmm. So, where I'm in like year 8. So, so it was a little bit different. But it takes time to get to that point. But once you're a starter, after about 3 or 4 years at any position, you should be able to master your position. And when I say that means you've seen everything known to man at any position, and you know how to counter it based off of what they're doing. Because you've seen everything. I mean, and coordinators, I had a book on all coordinators, and coordinators, they do the same plays when they go to other teams. So it didn't matter if I kept a book on Gruden was going to run these kind of plays when he was at Tampa Bay. Well, guess what? When we played him with the Raiders, then he was running the same freaking plays. It was a matter if he had better players to run the plays. So that, so once you get to that comfort level, and usually that takes to about year 4 or 5, you take off. Like you feel like there's nothing that can stop you as far as being successful in the league.
Yeah, I love the insight into the chess match there between the Hitman and the Sheriff. Hitman and the Sheriff, by the way, 2 of the coolest nicknames had to be of your era.
Oh, the Sheriff. Or maybe NFL. Well, I think the Sheriff knew everybody's number.
That sounds like an AMC show or something. The Hitman and the Sheriff. Like we got to make that happen.
Sounds like a great buddy cop sitcom.
Yeah, it does. You kidding me? You cannot make that stuff up. That's awesome. Now, you brought up about Will Levis and not having that knack for seeing the swing pass out of the back of his head. And
naturally, yes.
I'm curious, in watching the Titans, and by the way, he's Blaine Bishop, I'm Lucas Panzica, this is Cover 2. We have audio from Mike Borgonzi and Brian Callahan to share from Senior Bowl, but I do want to kind of stick to what you said there. In watching the Titans this past year, did you feel like it was more of the offense did not give Will Levis enough easy outs, or that Will Levis didn't have the feel to fall back on those easy outs, right? On the easy completion, the chain moving ball. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I got you. No, right. I completely understand you. I'm always going to lean to the player. Once you're on the field, you have control. The coaches can only do so much. So I'm going to actually lean to Levis didn't do enough. But naturally, I felt like at some point in time, I think once they figured that out, I think they tried to make some adjustments as the coach, the head coach Callahan. And I think it was just a little too late, and they kind of were stuck where they were and just try to manage through it and see if they could get to me, the outlet was always the go-to if you get in trouble. But they also were having offensive line issues as well. So it wasn't all on Levis, but he can save you. And that's what, a franchise quarterback's supposed to do. And that's what the whole year was about. Can he be a franchise quarterback or a starting quarterback in this league? And as of right now, he showed you that he's probably not quite there, at least in this system. Now, here's what really good coaches do. I don't know if they did this or not, but you work around and manage through his deficiencies as a quarterback at any position, any player. That's easier said than done when you're also trying to manage the offensive line who had issues. They're rotating a tackle, and then you're having injuries to, not only your center and your guard. So I get where they were, but at the same time, I just think the team wasn't built good enough. They'd have enough talent to even manage through that. And when I say that this is why he had success with Derrick Henry and Kelly as the OC. They had a superstar running back, and they could always lean on that and do play action pass and throw deep, right? That would at least hold up the line, the linebackers, and everything else. They couldn't do that with this team because they didn't have the superstar running back. See, so then there was nobody really paid attention. Now, Pollard's a good player, but he wasn't a superstar running back. He's a real good running back and a versatile one at that, him and Spears. So I think that was the difference of why they couldn't really put it all together, and we would see it in spurts at time, and then it would just go away, and you go, man. And Levis has to take a lot of ownership on some bad decision making too. But at the same time, I thought they tried, but I don't know if they tried enough. To me, right now, he's at a position where Levis that I don't know if he's going to even be. I think they're going to try to do their best.
I was going to ask, will you be surprised if he's on the roster come training camp?
I really would be. I would be. And I'm not saying they're going to cut him though.
Right.
I don't think they're going to give him away. He's too talented for that. But I think they're going to try to do everything in their power to sell him to other, franchise, let alone even if it takes all the way through preseason like they did with Malik Willis, as I called it. They were trying to trade him and not put him up ahead of Mason Rudolph.
Got a seventh out of it.
Right, they did. So whether you liked it or not, that's what was going on, because based off practices and preseason, it wasn't like he was playing better than Mason Rudolph. You couldn't even tell. So, and then he got in that game and he showed against, I think it was the Saints. Yeah. That he did really good, and he deserved the right to at least be a number 2 at this point in his career, which he showed that even against the Titans, he could be a 1. And see, here's what I'm getting at. See how LaFleur worked around his strengths? He's a running quarterback that can actually throw. So he got him comfortable, ran some of the option stuff, and then he let him play action, go downtown, and let him use his strengths. And it was a very basic game plan, really, but hard to stop. And they had really good running game and receivers too. But at the same time, he worked around his deficiencies. He's not Love. He's not even close.
So are both things true to you, that Will Levis kind of showed he didn't have that pocket feel that you need out of a franchise quarterback, and the Titans also maybe didn't do enough to put him in a position to succeed?
I think they both can be. And I thought Will actually tried to get better. Here's one thing that I do love about Will Levis. I think he's a hard worker. I think he tries to fix all those things. Sometimes maybe that backfired on him because he became too much of trying to do what they wanted him to do, and then you become robotic and it's not natural as an athlete. So I had to give him credit for trying, but at the same time, things were moving too fast for him. To me, he never got to where he needed to going through his progression reads. He almost got there a couple games. You see flashes of it, but it was too inconsistent. Unfortunately, he probably caught the team where the offensive line just wasn't good enough to help him through this process.
Well, we talk so much about that quality of a quarterback, the neck up, the nervous system. And it was interesting. I know you guys played the audio of Brian Callahan, his interview with Easton Freeze, talking about what he wants in a quarterback, that precision passer, quick decision maker, accuracy, chain mover, all of these things that Levis doesn't necessarily hang his hat on, right? And you mentioned that fit that Levis has with his traits of wanting to be a downfield passer that match up perfectly with the offense he was drafted into, the play action, deep shot offense. And we saw it work, at least for one game, but we could call it 2 games, right? 2 shining moments against Atlanta and against Miami in 2023. So what does a Brian Callahan offense with a quarterback that fits that more, that can at least limit the turnovers that crippled them so much throughout the course of the season? And I guess the game that they're going to be playing all offseason is figuring out how to evaluate these guys beyond just their tape. And this is Titans head coach Brian Callahan on how to test a quarterback's nervous system throughout the pre-draft process.
There's ways you can do your best. It's if there was a clear-cut way, we'd probably have a lot more hits on quarterbacks than not. It is challenging. It's not there's no perfect science to it. You do your best given what you know about the person and the player and their intelligence and then their makeup. That's why you got to really dig hard on what these guys, their personalities, and the people that are around them, and then you got to test them as best you can. You try to put them under some duress. It's manufactured, obviously, but you just try to see how they respond to some things. But it's not a perfect science.
That's Brian Callahan. Titans GM Mike Borgonzi was asked the exact same question: how to find a quarterback with a good nervous system. This is all courtesy of A to Z Sports Nashville, by the way. This is the Titans GM down in Mobile.
A lot of, you can see some of the poise on film, right? Critical situations, third downs, red zone plays. Those are things you're looking for when the game's on the line. What do they do in critical moments of the game? And then a lot of it is researching with the scouts and talking to people inside the building and how they deal with adverse situations throughout the week, throughout the game. So that's an important part of the process. Making plays in critical times of the game, especially for that position, is very important.
That's Titans GM Mike Borgonzi. So, red zone offense as an evaluating tool for the nervous system of a quarterback is interesting. I can pull up the red zone scoring percentage stats from the college football season last year and see where Colorado and Miami ranked. The trouble I have with college football, Blaine, is most red zone scoring percentage stats include touchdowns and field goals. And I don't want to know. I don't want field goals to be a part. I don't care how many times you kicked a field goal when you got inside the 20. I care how many times you scored a touchdown. So I'm going to work on trying to figure out the percentage, the clip at which Miami and Colorado scored a touchdown once getting into the red zone. But what do you think about that process of evaluating a quarterback's nervous system, just the difficulty level of that throughout the pre-draft process?
Well, that's definitely difficult, and you could say that they were clutch in college. We just talked about Burrow, but when the speed of the game gets you in the NFL and it amazes you and shocks you, is then how do they respond to that? And that's what's going to be the critical one. Because when I look at Cam and Shador, the two top quarterbacks everybody's talking about, at least as of right now, I would say both of those guys are clutch. When you watch them play, they have this calmness about them at the college level of that, nothing rattles them. We got to see Shador when he had a horrible offensive line 2 years ago, and he kept playing, and so he's tough. He doesn't get rattled, all those things. So I think they're talking about the red zone because everything happens so fast in the red zone because it's bang, bang, bang. And as a defensive back, I love that because I didn't have to backpedal. So I would read my keys and go, boom, let's go. And it's much harder for the offense to score in the red zone. So you have to make tight window throws all the time, unless you got that Randy Moss guy on the outside that can just out-jump, or D-Hop, or whoever it may be, to make those plays. So you get to see them dissect, react, and make tight window throws, all mental except for the throw. I think, and that's probably why they use that as a gauge I would just call it an it factor. Some of them are just born with it. Like you since the day they started playing, they just got to a comfort level where nothing ever bothers them, even when they make a mistake. So that's why I always talk about coaches taking players out, which I really never heard of till Vrabel did it 2 years ago, of taking players out in the NFL when they make a mistake or get beat. It astonished me, because what you want to see is, and this is life right here, you want to see how athletes respond to failure. So what you want to do is support them through the downtime and then put them back out there and see how he responds. I said the same thing about Will Levis. I said I wouldn't have benched him. I want to see now how he played his worst game ever. Let's see what he's made of now, because then that tells you his DNA right there. See, so we've all been there. I've been there. I get beat for a touchdown. I'm pissed off on the sideline. And I said, guess what? The first thing comes to my mind, I dare you throw that MF over here again. See, that's the mentality. That guy got it, right? So then as a quarterback, you go, okay, when I make a bad play, my bad. Take ownership. My bad. But when I get the ball back, be ready. We're going to take it down and we're going to score. Guess what? I've seen it happen. I seen McNair throw a pick and then come to the sideline like, that was my bad. Give me the ball back. Just that easy. And then go see him do it. Then you become a believer and you go, this guy's got it. And that's how you determine. It's not about the success. It's about when they fail, how do they respond? See, and to me, we didn't get to really see that. Did he play poor? Yeah. Did he go back out there against I'm not talking about a one play. I'm talking about he threw 3 interceptions in a game, and you go, okay, we're going to bench him. Oh, man, come on. Let's see. Let's give him a half. Let's just see how he responds to this. Our season's already racked, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah. That's a stat I wish we kept. Think about that. If we kept that stat, a quarterback's completion percentage in a game post-turnover, right? What does he do after the first turnover? What are his numbers after that play?
See, that's my gauge right there. And guess what? All the guys you mentioned before at the beginning of the show, Allen, Mahomes, Burrow, we can go down to Lamar. They respond. They respond. It's like easy to them, because it's not like they don't make mistakes. They make mistakes. Is how they respond to those mistakes, and they really get laser focused, and then they become something pretty incredible to watch.
So we were speaking of red zone offense, touchdown percentage in the red zone as a good evaluating tool for the nervous system of a quarterback prospect. Colorado ranked 45th in the country in touchdown percentage when getting into the red zone. They scored a touchdown 64.71% of the time after getting inside the 20. Miami ranked 17th in the country, with Cam Ward at quarterback scoring 72.31% of the time after getting inside the 20-yard line. Navy, number 1.
Oh, well, they ready to ball.
Just bullying their way into
play action pass, and nobody's covering the guy, right? Because they get food. I played against Army and Navy in college.
Oof.
That's exactly how I felt. I felt like I was hitting some of the hardest running players I'd ever hit before. They don't look to avoid you. They look to run at you because they feel like they can't avoid you. So it's like, I can't fake them out. So they just run right at you. It is the worst thing ever.
And you knew what it was coming, right?
Yes.
Everybody knows how they play. That was a game was that a game you were just dreading the entire week?
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, at that time, I'm a corner, so I'm out there on the outside, and somebody's coming over there running on a tall sweep. So you're like, oh, my God. Oh, I better bring my hard hat. So, yeah, you knew what was coming. You got to be ready to make a lot of tackles, especially a secondary guy against that type of offense. But, man, hey, yay. Yeah, I don't know if that's a fair comp there for those guys who run that style of offense in the red zone. But I can tell you this. I looked at Cam in the red zone, and he made this, incredible throw down the middle of the field. It was, who was it? It might have been Louisville, but I can't recall. It might have been a later game, because I watched the Louisville game all the way through, and I was impressed with his calmness in the pocket. Almost too calm and too cool. Like, he would get loosey-goosey with the ball sometimes, and I'm like, man. And then he did the flip deal like Will Levis does, or did. So I was like, ooh, he's just a better version of that, with a lot more tools with his arm to make more accurate, timely throws. But he made this one in the red zone. It was drop it in the bucket, and I love that. So they do this one, drill most quarterbacks where they just put a bucket in the corner of the end zone and they just throw it there and drop it in the bucket. And I call it drop bucket like it's easy, but it's like a teardrop, floater basketball play. But that's how they drop it in the bucket, and then it's on the outside shoulder. DB can't get it, especially with, these guys that are 6'3", 6'4". So, you can make that throw. I don't know if Will Levis was really good at touch passes. So you got to, look at that. So, yeah, Shador, I'm real unsure on his arm strength. I think his timing is good. His accuracy is good. I just don't know what his arm talent really is, to be honest. When I watch him play, I can't really tell the velocity. When I see a Ward throw, I see the velocity. When I see, Shador throw, I don't know what it is. It just seems like his ball floats a little bit to me when I'm watching it. So I would have to watch him live. And this is why you go with the scouting department, you go watch them live. You can get that check mark out of your head that, I was kind of seeing stuff on film. And not every throw, but it just felt like that on some of his throws. So that's why seeing him live is always much more beneficial than just watching the tape. Like, just imagine this. You watched tape last year of Will Levis. I'm sure Callahan did. And I bet he was just like everybody else. Ooh, this guy's got some tools I can work with. But he didn't know what was inside of his head. Like, he didn't know that he was going to be helter-skelter, doing some of this crazy stuff and not being a kind of somewhat of a game manager. And people think that's a negative term, by the way. I love that term for a quarterback. Because guess what? You're supposed to be the point guard of the offense and get it to your playmakers, and they do the work. That is, you can talk about that all you want to, but guess what? We could talk about the greatest of all time, at least as of right now, because Mahomes going to pass him. Tom Brady, I would sure say that he was somewhat of a game manager. If you watch them play, go back and watch them play, how much he was dinking and dunking people all over the place and then hitting the home run at sometimes. So he was somewhat a game manager, and I think it's a great term for the quarterback because that's what he's supposed to do. I don't think Will Levis was built like that. He was built like, I want to hit the home run.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that any of these coaching staffs are going to get a chance to see Ward or Sanders throw live and in person. I assume at the Combine, Shador Sanders said he doesn't know if he's going to throw at the Combine, and Pro Days will be coming up as well. Surely they'll get an opportunity at some point, but not this week because neither of them are at the Senior Bowl. 615-737-1045 is the number. We will get to your phone calls coming up next. It's Cover 2 on 1045 The Zone.
Hey, it's a new year and time to start on your wellness goals. So if you're having nagging pain or injury that's been keeping you from fully enjoying your favorite sports or activities like golf, tennis, or whatever it is, now is the time to finally take care of it. And Edge Peptide and Hormone Therapy has multiple regenerative treatment options for treating, healing, and recovering from your injuries or pain. And Edge has everything from PRP treatments to stem cell therapy. And Edge focuses on your body's natural ability to heal, and the ultimate goal is always to avoid surgery if possible, and reduce joint pain and inflammation, promote tissue repair, and even improve mobility and function, just like I did with my shoulder there. And the new year should be about healing, and Edge is here to make that happen. So call Edge for a comprehensive consultant to create the perfect treatment plan for you at some point in time because they have aggressive pricing all over the place in Tennessee. So spend this month restoring so that you can thrive the rest of the year. And all you have to do is go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call today at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Early stages of quarterback evaluations taking place. The interesting thing, Blaine, is the Senior Bowl doesn't have either of the top 2 quarterbacks at the top of this draft.
Oh, man. So who's there? I know the Ole Miss quarterback's there.
Jackson Dart, you've got Jalen Milroe, you've got Dylan Gabriel, and it's so fascinating because it's all these quarterbacks that were star players at their college, at their spot, that are not viewed as the prospects that Sanders and Ward are viewed as, but have played a ton of football. You know, you played at the Senior Bowl, right? You have your school's logo on your helmet.
And multiple logos, actually just friends. But I saw Dylan Gabriel has his 3
He's
schools.
got all 3, baby. In this era, we've got all 3 logos, UCF, Oklahoma, and, of course, Oregon. So these are high-profile prospects that have played in high-profile games and big moments, right? In the college football playoff, Will Howard would be there right now if he wasn't coming right off of a national championship game. But you don't have Cam Ward there, and you don't have Shedeur Sanders there. So the QB3 discussion will be very fascinating in the lead-up because it just feels like there's a lot of room for mobility, right, for a guy to work his way up the boards the way a Bo Nix did last year. And that was in a loaded quarterback class.
So what was your question is, what are you looking for? You think this is just an opportunity for maybe those guys to move up or maybe showcase what they maybe potentially in the NFL, and I'm going to say this lightly, Milroe at running back?
Milroe running back, you
We
say?
never know. I'm just telling you. You look at his running stats.
It's absurd. Yeah, 20 rushing touchdowns
I'm not
this year.
saying he is a running back, but through my sources, some scouts are starting to say that.
Okay, really?
And I'm like, what? They go, yep. I said, well, why don't you just kind of work on his accuracy? He had a year. He showed us that he's not that. I said, well, a couple off seasons now, you don't have to go to class, which I know he wasn't going to do. But anyway, you say he could be, something really special there at quarterback. So maybe that's this process to see if he's improved on some of the accuracy. He has the arm strength, but accuracy and velocity is all the NFL is all about, and timing. And that's always more important than arm talent.
Well, there was a massive regression there in throwing the football.
Well, he's got a new coordinator, and they wanted to throw the ball a little bit more, I would say, but they definitely leaned in what he was strong at, and that was running the football.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, he almost doubled his rushing touchdowns. He upped every rushing stat. He was phenomenal running the football. That athleticism makes him such an interesting prospect because teams are going to just fall in love with what he's able to do with the ball in his hands. So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if that's kind of, a topic that gets inflated a little bit as we move closer to the draft, this idea of Jalen Milroe moving away.
Is he going to practice?
From the quarterback position. I believe he's been practicing at the Senior Bowl. Coach Mack will join us at 2:20, and maybe we'll get a quick word from Coach Mack on whether or not he has seen Jalen Milroe out there yet. Speaking of quarterbacks, that's what Dorado wants to talk about. 615-737-1045. We go to the phones. Dorado up next on Cover 2.
What's up, gentlemen? Gerardo, sorry, I got
Gerardo, sorry about that.
By the way, no, you're good, brother. So, Blaine, you were mentioning about you actually like the fact that some quarterbacks are labeled as game managers. And it reminded me of a quote that Shedeur had recently with CBS Sports, and I'd like to get your opinion on it, man. It says, "You go cut to the tape. I know I'm worthy of doing everything I put my mind to, so I'm always worthy of doing whatever. Decision making. That's my biggest and best thing you could do as a quarterback, which is what my skill set is: decision making. I don't let anything alter my mind or anything get in the way of me not being able to be in right mind decision making. At the quarterback position, my skill set is what I like to do is sit in the pocket and throw it and manage the game. That's my best attribute." That's what I want to get your thought on that, Blaine.
Thanks, Gerardo. Did his homework
there. Yeah, no doubt about it. I think that's probably how he's been trained from day one to be a quarterback. And I think that's why he has that mindset like that. I actually like that. And when I watch him play, he's not a better talent than Cam Ward. I'm going to just say that right off the bat. He's not a better talent. And I'm talking about arm talent. I'm talking about athlete. I'm talking about all across the board. But when I watch him play, I also see a disciplined, on-time thrower all the time, which I think fits this offense better than Cam Jordan. Now, if Cam Ward, if Cam Ward learns this offense, could he be disciplined enough and then be better? Yes, because of his talents. his arm talent. And so that's always a fight I think a lot of scouts at every position have to deal with. You see one is projected as a better athlete, but somehow, some way, when they get in the pros, it just doesn't come to fruition that their athleticism matches up with their skill set and their play. And so you just never know if that will happen. But I think Shador does it a lot more consistent. I think that's because of how he thinks. I think Cam Ward thinks that he can do all throws and he will throw the home run more than not because he likes to splash. He's got some Will Levis in him. He's just a better talent and has a better mindset. But I don't think the short throw and the long throw, if the guy's covered, he think he can get in there, he gonna throw it. He gonna throw it deep. Where Shador's gonna take what you give you. He's going to do it. Now, only time you see him really take a throw deep is when he's scrambling around trying to buy some time and he'll just heave it. And then, sometimes he got lucky, sometimes he didn't.
His interception numbers, for as improvisational as he is, Cam Ward, and as out of structure as he plays, and that's a knock against him, right? The turnover-worthy plays. 6 interceptions this past year and 3 lost fumbles. 9 turnovers. He had more interceptions than fumbles combined, 7 interceptions. To the 3 fumbles. So he had as many interceptions and fumbles combined as Shador Sanders had interceptions last year. Not a lot of these plays were resulting in turnovers, yet that's used as a big knock against him, his ball security. But is it more about just his style of play and how you can get away with that in the ACC that you won't be able to in the NFL?
Well, I'm going to say, yes, that's true. I don't think it's just the ACC. I just think he thought he plays with this level of confidence that I do like Cam Ward. I love it. But I'm like, ooh, that's not going to work in the NFL. Him carrying the ball around loosely like that, one-handed, just moving around like he's playing flag football. Like that, guys going to get the ball. We're trained to when you get there, don't be satisfied with the sack. The object is to get the ball. And so they're going to go after the rock all day, all time. And so those are the things you see could potentially be problem issues. You don't know if it will be, but you're going to have to get him in this mindset of being a little more secure. How much does that tweak his mentality? See, this is what he's got the right mentality, but he can't play as loose as he played in college. The guys are going to be bigger and faster, and they're going to be able to recover. So I just think that is my only concern. Everything else I love about the kid. Actually, I think he's projected to me in my mind, he has a higher ceiling than Shador. I think Shador, which would concern me in certain offenses, I just think he would be just an average quarterback. And that's it. But there's a lot of average quarterbacks who do really well at the same time because they know their strengths and weaknesses, and they never lean into those, and they lean into all their strengths.
Well, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about both of those prospects all offseason. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the free agency class of quarterbacks in 2025. And there's one team in the AFC that will have at least one quarterback that will come available on the free agent market, but we don't know which one. And we'll tell you what that is coming up next. Cover 2 on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2, presented by All Four Seasons Garage Doors on 104.5 The Zone, with you until 3 o'clock with the hitman Blaine Bishop. I'm Lucas Panzica, filling in for Zach this week as he's down in Mobile for the Senior Bowl, which, by the way, we will get a check-in from Coach Mack from Mobile coming up at 2:20. Talk about some of the prospects he's gotten to watch. Jackson Williams on the other side of the glass making it happen. So we teased this on the way out. There's one team in the AFC that actually has two quarterbacks that will come available on the free agent market, but they plan to keep one of them.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. You're right. An important distinction. We don't know which one. This is from ESPN. Steelers owner and president Art Rooney II says that when they address the quarterback position, it is his preference that they sign either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson this offseason. The direct quote from Rooney is, "I wouldn't close the door, but I'd say it's probably unlikely that they would retain both. I think both of them see themselves as starters, and I don't know that they want to share the same job again next year. So I would say most likely we probably don't wind up bringing them both back." So before we get to the Titans portion of this, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, who would you rather have as your starting quarterback in 2025? Justin Fields, who helped you get off to a 4-2 start, or Russell Wilson, who came in, enabled you to run the offense more like you wanted to, but fizzled late in the season and will turn 37 later on in the 2025 season.
Yeah. How old is Justin Fields? What is he, about 27 himself or so? He was
Even younger than that, at 25.
25.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He'll be 26 this coming season.
Yeah, I thought, based off their play, you always kind of lean into the younger player, depending on where your team is at. Now, if you have a veteran team and you got to push for, you think, a Super Bowl run, then you lean into Russell Wilson. But if it was me, just in general, I think I would put all my eggs in Fields and try to work around some of his deficiencies. And really, it was just the outside throwing to the receivers. Everything else, I think he was fine with. Him and Pickens never kind of hit rhythm, but Wilson and Pickens did. So and he was a big playmaker for them. So that's the only thing there. I would lean into the younger player, more athletic, more durable. And maybe you get him for a cheaper price for a 1-year deal, or maybe in totality a 3-year that's not real expensive. That way you can still sign some more pieces because he was in a backup role. But I would give him the shot. I just think he was about to turn the corner when he's with the Bears. Right there at the last 6 weeks, he was, as a passer, showed me that he could get it done in the NFL, and that's we all knew he could run. So it was unfortunate that wasn't the staff that drafted him or management. So yeah, I would lean into that.
It's so funny.
If I'm the Titans, though, I would rather have Fields too.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
just because he's the younger up and coming talent.
25 years old, will turn 26 in March. It's so funny how the perspective has flipped on Justin Fields from what he was as a college player to the NFL. Pure pocket passer at Ohio State after transferring from Georgia. And then he gets to the NFL, and he's this electrifying runner with the Bears. It's the thing that he's good at. It's the thing that gets him on the field. I mean, what do you think his career high was, Blaine, in rush yards when he was in college for the season? His career high in rushing for a season.
300 yards?
484.
Oh.
484, which, to be honest, is higher than I would have guessed.
Oh, that's pretty high.
Off the top of my head. That was in the 2019 season with Ohio State. But in the NFL, immediately Justin Fields was a dual threat, and his career high in rushing, 1,000-yard rusher in 2022 with the Bears, over 1,100 rush yards and 8 touchdowns.
But they had a pretty bad offensive line too there in the beginning. So he was running for his life.
You're right.
But then eventually he was running the ball, and sometimes a little too much. I think what happens when you get into the league, you don't understand the timing part of it, especially the real athletic quarterbacks who can rely on that when they're in college. But when you're in the pros, it's about timing. And I think Caleb Williams even having a little bit of issue with this to me. And it's when I was studying him on film, he didn't like to throw in rhythm on time. And if you don't, then you're going to be running around with your head cut off back there, and you're going to end up making mistakes. And I really saw him start to do that a little bit throughout the season. Nothing major, but they need to also protect him. But he wouldn't throw on time, whether guys are open or not. You got to let that ball ride. You're not going to be able to run around like you did in college and really make some big plays, maybe some mistakes, or lose yardage So to me, it's about timing and precision and accuracy when I'm looking for the quarterback, not how athletic they are. I want them to be able to run to keep the chains moving. So you got to have some form of athleticism. But really, you should be the smartest player on the field. And your decision-making, as Shador said, should always be the focal point of what you are as a quarterback.
What you've just described doesn't sound like, to me, someone that'll thrive in what Brian Callahan wants.
Right, and that's what I'm matching it up with, what player fits them, not maybe the best player, but the player that fits best for his scheme and his system. Because there's a part of me when I watch them, even though I think he tried, I don't think it was a little too late to work around Levis's deficiencies. I think he's a guy who runs his system and let's put my quarterback in who fits my system, and then it'll work correctly. And there's a whole part of me that says that you should be able to work around, if he's talented enough, work around his skill set to help your offense work at the same time. And that is difficult, by the way, but I thought he should have done it sooner. I think it was a little too late, and it was already, pretty much over what he was and what he was going to be, Will Levis with the Titans. So great coaches, in my eyes, always works around the talent of the actual players and their strengths.
Steelers are bringing back Arthur Smith as offensive coordinator in 2025. So you'd be surprised if they decided to stick with Russ this season?
If Arthur Smith comes back?
Yeah, if the Steelers decided to stick with Russell Wilson over the young Justin Fields?
I don't know, for whatever reason, Tomlin liked Russell Wilson. It was really interesting when he said that, and I thought it was more so because Fields in his contract had an elevated level of pay if he played a certain amount of time. So I thought he was doing it for that. And then all of a sudden you find out that, no, Russell Wilson was actually his guy. So I would not be surprised. But, I always wonder how much does Tomlin have in the say-so of actual players he wants. I just don't know how they run their organization, which is a long-lasting, organization that's made almost always the right decisions. So you think that the head coach has some say-so, but do they lean into their way about winning? And that usurps whatever the coach wants to do. So I don't know. If it was Tomlin, I think he would get Russell Wilson. I really believe that. The way he would talk about him, but the way Russell Wilson finished the season, and I watched a couple of those last two games, and then the playoff game, no way. He made some, I'm going to give it this, Will Levis-esque throws. And I go, what are you doing? And so with that, really, it's time for him to be a backup in my mind. And then I think he would look great.
6-game losing skid to end the season.
Yeah. So I'm going Fields. Who would you like amongst those two if you were going to sign them and you're the Titans? And now I'm not saying Fields fits the Titans scheme, by the way, either. But I just think of those two, if I had to pick, that's who I would go with.
It sounds insane to say this, but I think I would go with Russell Wilson with the context of him being that veteran to bridge the gap.
With the Titans.
With a young quarterback in place.
Got you. No, it's hard to deny
because
that.
Justin Fields, you're bringing in Justin Fields to compete, to start, and to be a potential long-term option, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't feel like a recipe for success. After the Will Levis experience, Justin Fields trying to plug into Brian Callahan's offense. I mean, we have spent so much time in the last week listening to Brian Callahan in detail talk about what he wants out of his quarterback. And it just doesn't sound like Justin Fields to me.
No, and I would agree with that. But what are your options? Here's why I say Fields, because unlike you, I'm not thinking that they're going to bridge. I'm thinking they're going to sign a free agent and they're going to trade back and get multiple picks. See, and so I think you should start looking for a guy more on the Tannehill-esque thinking thought process, that if this doesn't work, then I got a guy. And so that's kind of how I'm thinking here. But I'm with you. Russell Wilson, even though he has some kinks to his armor, is the better fit when you're talking about veteran. I think Russell Wilson has also a little bit of issues here later in his career throwing on time. And he once he starts scrambling around, he's not magical anymore. He's just another, good quarterback that, now is making mistakes. So I see the downward tick. He did a great job coming back. I'd have never thought he was as bad as Sean Payton did. Yeah. But I think right now, he's kind of more what you're saying, bridge to backup. Yeah. I would say that. That's where he's at. And I don't know if he really wants to do that.
Yeah, he's not necessarily cooking anymore. He's struggling to get the flame on the stove at this point.
But
in his
he
career.
did start off hot. Tomlin looked great in the beginning when he made that decision.
There was a
when he put it
bold
back
one
in.
at 4-2.
I thought, I don't know. I don't know if I wouldn't have made it. I would have stayed with the hot hand because I had a veteran.
Yeah.
He would have understood. But a young guy, I might have thrown it back. So I would have did the total opposite. That's why because
Well, it was an injury that kind of kept Russ sidelined, and they had to roll with Fields, and they're 4-2, and everybody's saying Mike Tomlin's crazy. And I loved his quote after all of that when they started to kind of roll a little bit. He said, "That's why I'm highly compensated," and it's true. But they certainly didn't finish the season on a good note at all. So that's an interesting discussion in Pittsburgh. It could have a direct effect on the Titans' approach.
What other
to the
quarterbacks are
quarterback
free
market.
agents? Do you know?
We'll can
talk
get
about
to
it over the break. We'll look.
We can. And Coach Mack will join us on the other side as well. Check in from the Senior Bowl in Mobile. This is Cover 2, presented by All Four Seasons Garage Doors on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, it's a new year and time to start on your wellness goals. So if you're having nagging pain or injury that's been keeping you from fully enjoying your favorite sports or activities like golf, tennis, or whatever it is, now is the time to finally take care of it. And Edge Peptide and Hormone Therapy has multiple regenerative treatment options for treating, healing, and recovering from your injuries or pain. And Edge has everything from PRP treatments to stem cell therapy. And Edge focuses on your body's natural ability to heal, and the ultimate goal is always to avoid surgery if possible, and reduce joint pain and inflammation, promote tissue repair, and even improve mobility and function, just like I did with my shoulder there. And the new year should be about healing, and Edge is here to make that happen. So call Edge for a comprehensive consultant to create the perfect treatment plan for you at some point in time, because they have aggressive pricing all over the place in Tennessee. So spend this month restoring so that you can thrive the rest of the year. And all you have to do is go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call today at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
That music means one thing. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio joins us on Cover 2, 104.5 The Zone, live from the Senior Bowl in Mobile. Goodness, Jackson, what's going on back there today? Fingers slipping up and down that board. Sorry about that, Coach Mack. Might have blown your ears out.
No, that's all right. I understand. I talked to Jackson before I got on with y'all, so I know what he's got going.
A lot going on back there, Coach. Appreciate you doing this as always. Did we rip you away from any drills? What's going on down in the field right now?
No, we just got back to the vehicle, sitting in here with Ramon and Rhett and Ashley Farrell, waiting on Amy Wells to get through conducting on-field interviews, and then we're going back over to the convention center to do an OTP off of what we saw today. But we just got off the field.
So before we get into what you saw today, could you give us kind of a brief synopsis, Coach, of what you've been watching, who you've been paying attention to in day one of Senior Bowl practices?
Well, day one, I told you guys last week that we were going to look at the bigs, and we did. The national team that practiced at 9 a.m. this morning, we interviewed some people this morning, some offensive linemen, Wyatt Milam from West Virginia, number 74, and then Marcus Bowe from Purdue. We interviewed those two guys early this morning, about 6:15, and then watching them, they had a nice day. Ozzie Trapillo from BC had a really, really good day today. Then there's a big offensive tackle from North Carolina State named Anthony Belton that kind of caught our attention. And then when you look at his numbers, 6'5", 345, 10 2/8 hands, at a wingspan of 83 1/8 inches, he had a good practice today. I mean, you could tell in the one-on-ones. The guy that caught Ramon's eye on the inside on the national team in this morning was Jonah Moheim, the guy from USC that played center, and he did a nice job. So those are some of the big dudes on offense that we watched, and then the guy on the other side of it, number 74, Yaya Black from Iowa, was pretty impressive as far as a speed to power guy. And then, of course, Mike Green. We interviewed Mike Green this morning from Marshall, the edge rusher, and has got a lot of speed. He's a speed rusher. I think that's what's going to be his specialty in this league. So that's a little bit of a rundown of the big guys that we watched this morning, and then just sprinkle through some wide receivers and tight ends. A couple of tight ends that we looked at: Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, and then Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. They kind of stood out this morning at the tight end position.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio checking in from the Senior Bowl in Mobile.
Here from, I guess, maybe our discussion. And I didn't know the answer, and I should know the answer. But do the All-Star games like the Senior Bowl play with NFL footballs, or do they use college footballs?
That's an NFL ball.
Coach Mack, where'd you go?
He said it's an NFL ball.
Oh, it's an NFL ball. Oh, okay. I haven't time it. Oh, it's an NFL ball. Oh, okay. Because all I remember is Jamar Chase saying that the ball was different at his rookie year, and that there's no stripes. He couldn't track the ball really well. Somebody asked that. I said, I'm not sure. So I'll ask Coach Mack.
It's an NFL ball.
Okay. All right. That was it. Well, naturally, the whole brass of up top, upstairs of the Titans are now assimilated and all down at the Senior Bowl, I'm assuming. Any ties to any of those guys that were new hires, at least theoretically, that you know of or crossed paths before?
No, I really haven't. Not with the new hires. I have not. I mean, of course, I know some people in the league that came up to me today out here and were telling me about Borgonzi, that they had worked with him or had somebody that worked with him. They had nothing but good things to say about him. They said, you'll enjoy visiting with him because he's a straight running football guy. But I did not have cross any paths with any of those guys.
Yeah, it was Ziegler and McKenzie. Mm-hmm.
Well, Reggie. Now Reggie, I've known Reggie for a long time in this league. Mm-hmm. And Reggie comes into this thing with a lot of water in his bucket. Reggie's been a GM at a couple of places. Yeah. The thing I like about Reggie McKenzie, of course, when I was coaching, I was always at all the workouts, the school workouts. I was at any workouts that they had, even for the alternate leagues. And normally, what clubs do is they'll send lower tier scouts to some of those types of workouts all across the country. Reggie was boots on the ground at every one of them. So, I've had some nice conversations with him. A lot of respect for him because he is he's a boots on the ground scout. That's what he is. And of course, he's been a general manager at a couple of places. That was a nice get for them. That's a lot of experience there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think they assembled a great team. Naturally, there were some coaches changes. John Fossil, the special team coach, as well as Renee Stewart, my former teammate, as the assistant special team. I know Fossil has a nice history in the National Football League. Even was taunted as maybe a potential head coach at one point in time back in the day. But what are your thoughts on how he is in the league and viewed in the league?
Blaine, he's a 20-year vet as a special teams coach. And, when he was leaving Oakland is when Fish got the job at St. Louis. I worked. I was a defensive coordinator, and his dad, Jim Fossil, was the offensive coordinator when we took the job over at Arizona. And then after us being there together as coordinators, I got the Cardinals job. He got the Giants job. And that's when the Cardinals were still in the NFC East, so we competed against each other. And then when Fish got the job, Jim Fossil called me and said, look, Bones, I think, is going to leave Oakland. Would you guys interview him? And then Fish was already kind of on him, and so we brought him in to interview him. And he did look, he has made his mark in the league, but he is a 20-year vet. And I told Coach Callahan when I was up there at the press conference, just because I'd talked to Bones, and Bones had talked to me a little bit about coming to work here and what I thought. And I told Bones it's a big plus for this coaching staff, and then these special teams players here now will appreciate what Bones brings to the table.
No doubt about it.
And Renee Stewart was a quality control, defensive quality control for 2 years when I was working here with Jeff Fisher, and then I kept in touch with Renee. When he was there at Vanderbilt, I know he was coaching the high school there in the Nashville area also. So, and Bones has had him down there with him in Dallas. So, got two solid guys there, Blaine, and the special teams.
Oh, no doubt about it. We're with Coach Mack giving us a Mac attack. And I have one more question. I always get this question, and I'm not sure the answer, so I want to lean into you a little bit. A lot of people talking about Shedeur. I know you're not down at the East-West. You're at the Senior Bowl. But what are your thoughts on these high-profile quarterbacks not practicing but also just showing up at the All-Star game?
Yeah, that doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, that has, their body of work, they're already there. The thing that is important for them, though, the being down there and being able to visit with them. I mean, I just talked to Jim Wyatt. He came and sat down with us at the stands here. He was down there, in Dallas at the East-West, and he said the access that they had to Shedeur was outstanding, and he spent some quality time with him. And plus, he said Shedeur spent a quality time with the Titans. So it's important. It's important for them to be there, and I give them a lot of credit for being down there.
No doubt about it. Coach Mack giving us the Mac attack.
A lot of interesting quarterbacks, Coach, to evaluate throughout the course of the week in Mobile. Guys that could certainly have a lot of mobility up and down the draft boards as kind of that QB3 prospect. I'm not sure how much of a chance you've gotten to watch them today specifically, but what are you looking for when you're watching a quarterback in a setting like the Senior Bowl?
Well, the first thing is, and again, having coached this thing, and of course, being at this place for a long time, watching quarterbacks, really the first day is not a real good indication of what they are, because everything is different. The receivers are different. The timing's off. Tomorrow, I'll zero in on it. And that's what, we normally did. Even when I was coaching it, give them a chance to assimilate, into a new system, new receivers, all of that stuff. But what you're looking for is somebody, first of all, in the meeting rooms, how quickly they can pick up what you are putting down. That is extremely, extremely important. And then guys that are accurate. You're looking for accuracy down here. That's the biggest thing, because you play vanilla defense, so they're not challenged by coverages, switching, those types of things. So what you are looking at is consistency with their accuracy. That is number one, backing up, just how fast they can absorb what they're being taught in a short amount of time.
Coach, how much teaching is done at the Senior Bowl, working through these practices, these drills, and the lead up to the actual game? How does that where's that separating line between evaluation and actual coaching and teaching that takes place?
Well, a lot of technique, and that's what they want, and that's what the scouts want. You usually have meetings as far as doing the 4 times I've coached it, we always ask, what drills do you want to see, individual drills, for the, to look at. I used to run, the linebacker drills at the combine for years. And what scouts want to see is something that can translate to something that they can, what the specific skills are, because really the team stuff that you're doing, I mean, the schemes and those types of things, they're very, very vanilla, but they really want to see the individual drills, and they also want to see individual drills that relate to position-specific traits. That's what you're looking for down here.
What's the most efficient way to you, at least in your experience, to divvy up the responsibilities of head coach, GM, whoever a team sends down there in terms of who watches what, where, and just dividing and conquering, so to speak, throughout the course of the week and trying to share those responsibilities and evaluate as many players as possible?
Well, what you do, though, you see, you have meetings prior to this, and all your area scouts and your pre-meetings, you kind of zero in on who you want to look at, and then you divide your scouts up as to far what they want to look at, gather their grades, and then have meetings at night as far as about how they graded the guys, how they did compared to what they saw during the season. Because your area scouts are the ones that have spent most of the time with these guys. Now, coaches are just now catching up on this film, and then of course general managers and the national scouts have an overview of it, but it's very planned out what they look at, what you're going to look at, and then also what you're going to talk about nightly, just to be able to keep a rolling tabs on what you're seeing, or something that you may want to divide up and look a little bit more at the second and the third day of practices, because the practices are really key. And I like the way they do it now, because you practice at the same place. They have a 1 hour break between practices. And so you can go over what you've watched after the first practice and then dive right into the second one. But there's a lot of pre-planning that goes into what a scouting group is going to watch as a singular unit and then as a group on every day.
How often in your career, Coach, would you come around a player that maybe didn't necessarily jump off the tape when you're watching the film and he wasn't exactly on your radar, but then things shifted when you got to see him in person at a setting like the Senior Bowl, and it had you going back for more? Is that something that happened often in your coaching career?
Well, you know what? A little bit earlier, not now. Jim Nagy and his scouting staff that he now has been able to put together, former NFL scouts, they go out and start vetting these guys, and so they have guys here that have got. I mean, the percentage of guys that have been drafted in the last several years that Nagy has brought in here, I mean, most of these guys in here will be drafted at some point or another. So nobody is really surprising you. A lot of times what you like to watch, though, and you like to talk to the coaches that are coaching it, how are they interacting with a group in a setting that they're not comfortable in to begin with. And that's why you also have these scheduled meetings down here now with interviews like they do at the Combine. That's a huge, huge part of it. But very few of these guys are surprises anymore to the scouting world.
Coach Dan McGinnis of Titans Radio with us on Cover 2.
Well, Coach Mack, you say you were watching in the trenches there on offense, and I think a little bit on defense there. I think the kid from Marshall, I think you mentioned, is Mike Green, right? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
how did he look and kind of break him down a little bit? And when you do that, I'm sure you watch film, compare him, which may be unfair, Abdul Carter.
Yeah, well, he's not Abdul Carter. Let me get that out there right now. He's not Abdul Carter. He's a speed rusher. We interviewed him this morning. Okay. Really, really sharp guy. And I grilled him pretty well on, the offensive tackle. What are you looking at? Why are you looking at it? What's your counter? He sat and could talk with us very, very well about but he is going to be a speed rusher on the outside. That's mostly what he did today, just in the individual drills. Ramon and I and Red are sitting up there just watching him and talking. He did very few counter stuff today. He was mostly hitting the edge on stuff. But that is what he is. He is a speed rusher. Abdul Carter's a dude. I mean, and there's a difference there.
Okay. Well, then give me a comp of an NFL player he somewhat reminds you of Michael Green there from Marshall. Yeah,
I mean, you can take any smaller, undersized speed rusher and just insert his name in there. But he's a guy. He's going to be a guy probably that will come in. You will use him quite a bit on pass situations, on rush downs. Take your choice of those kind of guys in the league if there's a place for him. And the one thing that he will need to do once he comes into the league is get into an NFL, because he's a transfer from Virginia. He transferred from Virginia to Marshall because the defensive line coach at Marshall is someone that he wanted to learn under. He's training out at XOs out there in Phoenix, where his defensive line coach has come out there to help train him. So the big thing for him is going to be developing some more strength and counter moves when he comes into this league.
Oh, no doubt about it. We're on with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack. And I was talking about this the other day, or maybe last week or so. Like, what are the top 4 positions outside of quarterback being number 1 when you're building your team and building the foundation? What are the position groups that would be number 2, 3, and 4? Because I think it's changing a little bit. It used to be cornerback. I think it's offensive tackle, edge, and then wide receiver. What are your thoughts?
Well, to me, it's edge, tackle, corners. You can never have too many corners.
Mm-hmm.
You can never have too many corners. You can never have too many dudes that can get after the passer. You can never have too many dudes that can not only protect the passer, but then can morph into the run game. But you can never have too many cover guys in the National Football League, and especially guys that have the twitch, the length, and the ability to play man-to-man. Because the reason that comes into play, the more you can rush with 4 and cover with 7, then the numbers are on your side, because there's only 5 eligible. So if you covered with 7, then you've got 3 over 2, 4 over 3, however you want to parse it out.
Well, Coach, I'm going to give you a handful of names of veteran free agent quarterbacks. You tell me which one you like out of this group. Me and Lucas were talking about Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, Jimmy G, Joe Flacco, and Sam Darnold, Justin Fields.
Well, I think right now it's Sam Darnold, just because of what he's done. I mean, I don't, with all honesty, like, I always am with you guys, I don't vet free agents for this reason.
Mm-hmm.
Salary cap, it's money, but you look at somebody that's had a body of work this year as a guy that's kind of resurrected his career.
Yeah.
I know it didn't end well up there, but Sam Darnold had the best year.
No question. There you have it. Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack.
Well, Coach, appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the rest of y'all's week at the Senior Bowl. When do you guys head back from Mobile?
We will up here Thursday, and then we'll head back with Ramon. That is the best big vehicle driver I've ever driven with.
A big vehicle? What big vehicle you in?
He is back in this big wagon in one-handed into spots made for compacts. I mean, I told him if he ever quits doing this, he could get a long trailer truck driving job immediately.
Oh, that's that hand that he would use to punch people on defense. So that's
Ramon,
that arm right there.
Hand you used to punch people with.
That was that inside punch. Boom! I got you.
I had Ramon today, and one of those guards and tackles that sat down with us. I said, "Stick your hand up here and compare it to Ramon." They were exactly the same size. I told him, "You got a chance."
There you go. We got a shot.
There you have it.
All right, I pulled in next to that big old van the other day driving into work. That thing isn't easy. So props.
No, Ramon wheels it around one-handed.
Oh man,
he's in here drinking a latte and parking stuff back.
Latte.
He could drive a cattle trailer as well as anybody I've ever grown up with in West Texas.
Hey, he's got practice driving that big old truck,
man,
Coach.
tell him keep his hands at 12 and 2, man.
Yeah,
12 and
2, Coach, on the way back. Appreciate the time, Coach.
No, not 12.
Talk to you soon.
See you guys.
10 and 2.
Coach Dave McGinnis, 10 and 2. That's right. Oh, 12 and 2. That's right. You can get pretty stable with 12 and 2. But no, you, Coach Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio with us, by the way, at Titans Radio on Twitter.
Always fun.
Wherever you get your podcasts, a ton of good content will be coming from the Senior Bowl, a great team that they've got down there. But yeah, you won't catch me trying to drive one of those things. I mean, I'll run it straight into the car next.
You know
to
what I mean? I've never seen it because he's always going.
Oh, it's that big. It's not really a Sprinter van, but it's about the size of one. You know, it's that big black van. Every once in a while, you'll see it in the parking lot. I think it's what Slay used to get up and down Columbus for the Tennessee-Ohio State playoff game. But that's a long trip down to Mobile. That's not a short ride.
What is that, about 6.5?
6.5, 7-ish hours. Yeah.
Nice little drive.
Nice little drive. Could be worse. I don't think there's ice on the ground like there was last week down there. But a lot of good stuff still to come from Mobile. I want to get to a question that Blaine asked Coach Mack about Shedeur Sanders not participating in the East-West Shrine Bowl practices. We'll get the Hitman's thoughts on that coming up next. It's Cover 2 on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, folks, you know I've been talking about Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance for years because they're the leading experts in sports medicine and performance and the team physician for the NFL, college, and high school athletics across Tennessee. And TOA provides sports medicine coverage to more high school and college sports teams than any orthopedic group in the state of Tennessee. They have 29 locations throughout the state and over 100 physicians throughout Middle and East Tennessee to take care of all your musculoskeletal needs. And TOA has 11 urgent care locations with walk-in availability 7 days a week. They offer direct access to sports medicine and performance, physical therapy and nutrition, personalized rehabilitation plans to enhance mobility, reduce pain, and overall physical function for patients recovering from injuries or surgeries. And TOA also offers sports performance training, a specialized program designed to enhance athletic performance and provide tailored training solutions for athletes at all levels. So please check out their services at TOA.com. Yes, that's TOA.com.
Shedeur Sanders has been in a lot of headlines recently, a lot of buzz about the fact that he showed up at East West Shrine Bowl. He talked to multiple teams, but he did not practice. He will not be playing in the game, and he is now gone. He has left Texas, and he is now no longer a part of the East West Shrine Bowl activities. You ask Coach Mack this question, he does not seem to mind players like Shedeur Sanders not participating and going to do press conferences and interviews and meet with teams. What about you? What do you think about Shedeur Sanders choosing to opt out of the actual football activities at the Shrine Bowl?
There's a competitive nature, and I'm sure a part of him too, that would love to practice, even if he wasn't playing in games, because those All-Star games, the practice actually mean a lot more than actually the game. It sounds weird to say, but that is true. So I'd love to see him compete, to see how he looked against McCord and some other guys that were kind of in that, second tier, see how he looked compared to them, especially with his arm talent. But they chose not to, in his, advisory group, and I guess I'm assuming his dad as well was all part of that. So I don't have a big issue with it, but because you want to kind of control the environment when you're the quarterback. So he'll probably do it for sure on his own work pro day. It'd be interesting to see if he does it at the combine.
Right, I was going to ask, would that change your opinion on it at all if he elects not to participate in combine drills too?
If he chose not to do all the running and just the throwing, I'd just like to see him throw. I could care less about my quarterback and how fast he can run, to be honest, even if he's real fast.
He's not going to be running for a lot of 40-yard gains in the NFL.
I just wanted to see him throw, and then that way you get to see him with other competitors there to compare right in front of your face, so you can't miss it then. So I'd love to see him work out, but a lot of guys don't, and I get why, because the NFL is built for, they're always trying to break you down and tear you down and find every little cranny of negative part of your game, and it's really hard to do the less they see of you. See, so especially when you're the, projected as a, top pick like that. So I don't have an issue with it, but I wish he would. I wish all the elite players, so you could see them stack up against the other ones. But when you're, 1, 2, or top 5 pick, I get it. Yeah, that's just kind of the way of the land of getting drafted. That you don't work out unless on your pro day.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. We want as much information as humanly possible, right? Teams want as much information as humanly possible. But if you're Shedeur Sanders, what's the risk reward?
Right.
Of participating in these things, right? As someone who's already being talked about as the number 1 or number 2 overall pick. I don't know what the conversation around Sanders is going to be come March. It could be completely different. Right. Like it goes up and down, but just with as small as the top of this quarterback class is, where it's 2 guys, does he have a ton to gain from participating in these things? It doesn't mean that you have to like it, right? Teams can not like the fact that he's not participating, but does he have a lot to gain from practicing?
That's what I said, besides his own workout. Right. Here's what I'd love to see, though. People or players, quarterbacks in that second tier start to rise. Let's say it's McCord or Will Howard. And then how much pressure does that put on a little bit? Those top 2, right? To say, we need to show that, hey, we're the class of the act and work out at the combine and kind of show that, you're the cream of the crop.
Do you think any of these guys have enough juice to maybe start to kind of put the heat on those guys a little bit?
I would say the only guy could actually do that. It's going to sound weird. I think the other guys are going to be good players. I don't know if their talent is going to show like that in a workout.
Let me guess who you're going to say. Jalen Milroe.
Yep, exactly. And that's because that's what enamors the pro scouts, is the high ceiling, high talent. No different than Richardson, a year or 2 ago. So that's, he's going to be like, oh my God, he can make every throw. He can throw. We're talking about on air, and he can run. He's going to run a 4.4. It's 6'2", 220 or whatever he is. You got to say, man, hey, we can work with that. And that's what happens. And it's nothing against it, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And he's got a lot of starts, a little different than Richardson. Yeah. A lot more starts under his belt.
Yeah, and bigger wins. Moments, bigger wins, right? That performance against Georgia.
Only issue I have with him is consistently being an accurate passer, and I'm talking for more so intermediate, because that's what you're going to be throwing the most. And so you saw games where he would just miss a guy on a curl. You go, oh my God, what are you? He was wide open. What are you doing? So those are to me, that's all technical, arm level, footwork, all of that. So if he masters that, I think he could be, once again, another guy that could be thrown into the hat.
Very boomer bust during his time at Alabama, right? It either felt like he was electrifying with the run player or just uncorking a deep ball.
Oh, my.
But it was everything else that kind of left a lot to be desired. I think he's going to crush the combine.
Yeah, so he's going to get, schooled up on all those things that he's been working on, I'm sure. So, he probably, in my mind, would be probably the most talented. He probably could be the top of the board. That's probably why he's coming out. He's getting first-round grade. And he goes, what's the risk of coming back then? Why should I come back?
Let's not be shocked if Jalen Milroe gets drafted in the first round. Like they don't. That type of speed and athleticism does not just happen. Let's just not sit here and be blindsided. I'll tell you what, though, if he does, don't start the guy day one.
Oh, yeah.
Like you did Anthony Richardson, Indianapolis. Don't do that.
Yep.
No, how many times do we have to see that movie before we know how it's going to go early on?
Yeah, no doubt.
Big game tonight. Do you have a prediction in Thompson Bowling Arena, Tennessee and Kentucky, 6 p.m. tip? You can hear it right here on The Zone, courtesy of the Vol Network. Kentucky, no Lamont Butler, starting point guard, out tonight.
What about the Carr kid?
Andrew Carr, questionable tonight. The backup point guard, also out tonight, so extremely thin.
Yeah.
Extremely thin in the backcourt, and Andrew Carr questionable. So what do you think?
I think this is a no-brainer. Tennessee's going to win. They're going to put that kind of pressure on the defensive end against the point guards that you haven't been playing as much. So, I think they're going to win comfortably, by the way, too, even in somewhat of a low-scoring game. I'm hoping it gets in the 60s, but you don't want to get in a running game back and forth with Kentucky. But that way they can get open for threes. I think Tennessee's probably one of the top 5 teams, you probably would know better than me, in defending threes. And I think Kentucky's in the top 5 of shooting threes as far as making them. So I think that's going to be the difference, and I think they're going to miss because, Tennessee's defense is swarming.
Tennessee has struggled to score from inside the arc. They're bottom of the league in field goal percentage from 2-point range. Kentucky, worst team in the league at defending field goal attempts from 2-point range. So a chance for the Vols to get right, scoring around the rim a little bit. But you're right. They defended the 3 really well against Auburn, and we know Bruce Pearl loves to pull the trigger from outside. So we'll see if they can't keep that up. Both teams coming off a loss. Tennessee's been really good at home. Pressure's got to be on.
But Kentucky's won the last 2 at Tennessee, haven't they? Am I remembering correctly?
I can pull up the all-time series. That sounds about right.
It's Kentucky beat Tennessee the last 2 times at Knoxville?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Rick Barnes, 11-10 against Kentucky in his time at Tennessee. So a chance to stay above 500.
That was Calipari, though.
That was. This is a new era. Mark Pope. It feels like they're winning that divorce right now. Calipari has one SEC win right now at Arkansas. But 5:30, Vol Network coverage will hit the air, so it will preempt 3HL very slightly before a 6 p.m. tip-off. And make sure you tune in to that tonight. Big game over in Knoxville. We'll be back tomorrow. Zach Lyons will check back in from the Senior Bowl. We'll continue to talk through all this pre-draft
and Tennessee basketball.
And we'll react to Tennessee, Kentucky tomorrow, 1 o'clock on Cover 2. 3HL is coming up next, but in the meantime.
And in between time. Peace.